interruptions are interesting. I will say my life has never ever had a boring moment. I keep on telling Josh, like literally, I've never been bored in my entire life. And if we interviewed my parents, if my mom was still around, and you can ask my dad, I never once said ever, I'm bored. First of all, my parents won't put up with that. Secondly, that was never true. I've never been bored a minute in my life. So I had a discussion with one of our Toro Lug members regarding layouts, especially when they get bigger, and how to get them to and from shows and how to store them and whatever. Now you can see in my videos that there's a million videos of my stuff over the years. Everything that I have done has been done by other people before I done it, and better than I did it. So to start, our first bunch of shows that we did were our robot shows in RTL Toronto. We did robot shows. I started 1998-ish when I met Callum and Chris, and then everybody else after that. And that was easy. Those shows were literally easy to get to and from and to bring stuff in. Most times it was one trip, because I had for most of the shows I had purchased from, I think it was Canadian Tire. I don't think it was a Plano, but it was a toolbox, a yellow toolbox that used those Plano containers, like basically these things. And it was this like a full-size toolbox. It was for tools, but it had room for 6 of those things, and then 2 on top, smaller ones on the lid, and then it had a drawer in the top, or a shelf in the top of the, toolbox where you put all your socket sets. Well, I had Lego in there, and so I had basically sorted out judiciously parts that I might need at a show, just in case my robot breaks or I need to modify it. So it had some spare Technic bricks, plates, wires, sensors, gears, axles, blah 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 blah. And sometimes the robot even fit in there for the first couple of shows. But of course, if you remember me in robot competitions back in the day, my robots got a little bigger than they should have. And so I would, and my laptop bag, because I always had a laptop at work, and so I got to use my laptop from work, and I installed robot Lego Mindstorms on it, but I also installed Brick CC on it, and it worked fine with the IR tower and blah blah. So I had my laptop bag, I had my toolbox, and I had my robot, if the robot didn't fit in the toolbox, and it was just in a separate bag or box, and I would just carry that to wherever our robot competitions were, usually at Lillian H. Smith Library in Toronto. Some places sometimes a little different. And it wasn't until we started doing the hobby show or the toy train and doll shows, or even our own train shows, where that became not as conducive to bring stuff to a show. First of all, train layouts require a lot more space, a lot more boxes, a lot more whatever. And so I started using banker's boxes, which my friend Derek was using and my friend Callum was using, and blah blah blah. So we would build buildings that would fit or come apart and fit into banker boxes, because banker boxes were a dime a dozen. We all worked at a company that had tons of banker's boxes, so banker's boxes were free to us. And even Jeff started this, and I followed the suit or whatever. The HP PC boxes. The computer boxes, the compact computer boxes, they're bigger boxes, and they would hold lots more. And so we started using those, and I was using those for the longest time to bring train layouts and or whatever else layouts I was bringing to a show. I think a few of my older videos of the layout, you'll see that I used to have a bunch of HP boxes. Because computer boxes seem to be a little more, I don't know the grades of cardboard boxes. I am not one of these people who puts any attention into the grades of thickness and strength and whatever to cardboard boxes, but I do know there's a difference between the cheap ass cardboard box and the HP PC boxes that we used to get. And so even the layout that I have now, 10, 12 years ago, was brought to shows. There's a wonderful video of one of the brick fets where I was taking it down. I did a time lapse of taking it down. Josh was 5 or 6. And you see all the HP boxes strewn about where I just loading them in. And then, so I built to those boxes. Again, the buildings come apart and fit into those boxes. And there are some parts of my layout that didn't fit into a box, like the diamond or whatever else, that I had to store separately by itself outside a box, and worried that I was going to get busted. so HP boxes were great. Bankers boxes were great. And it wasn't really until, and this was after, the space layout was after we used the standard PNTLC, and I forget, Pacific Northwest Train Lego Train Club, LTC, came up with a standard size of a module for their train layouts, so people could do a collab of a train layout using the standard table sizes. And it's actually fantastically awesome that most folding tables are 2.5 feet across, because the standard train layout module was 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet, which fits exactly 3 base plates, 32 by 32 base plates by 32 by 32 base plates, or 2 48 by 48 base plates. It fits perfectly on, and then they came up with a plan to build your own tables, because again, notoriously every folding table has different heights than the table next to it. And Jeff and I kept on running into this issue many times when we're sorting out our first bunch of shows of ad hoc space layouts, where we just use the tables that were provided to us, and we'd have to shimmy the feet with cardboard to make sure all the tables were even. And every time you have monorail, the tables have to be perfectly flat with each other, or else it's very hard to get them lined up. And so that became very frustrating for me. That was probably my most frustrating and my only frustration of doing shows my entire life, was the fact that when you're doing a collab and a layout across multiple tables, the tables were completely not flat to each other. It was just fantastically annoying. It was so tough. And that's why at some of the shows after, even before I got the wooden boxes, after I said to Janie when she was doing Brick Fat, can I put it on the ground? Not only am I helping people see the layout better, because again, little kids, 3 or 4-year-old kids, cannot see on top of the table without their parents lifting them up. And so we started putting the layout on the floor, which eliminated, the kids could see it better, but also eliminated the stupid frickin' uneven tables. That was so unbelievably brutal, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. It's one of the things that I could not stand, was uneven tables. But no matter what show you did, and no matter how new the tables were, it was notoriously uneven. And so, but putting on the floor has its drawbacks, and the number one drawback is my health. Trying to put together the layout on my hands and knees, or bent back, bent over, is just, oh my goodness. When I was younger, I could do it a lot better, but now that I'm older, it's just, oh, no thank you. Absolutely no thank you. Putting the layout on the floor. My friend David did it at one of the last Bricks in the Six, and he can do it. I cannot do it anymore. No, not doing it. So I came up using the PNLTC, the Pacific Northwest, I think it is, Lego Train Club, using their module concept of base plates, because again, my space layout is just using base plates. I don't use mills. I don't use anything unique or whatever as a size. All my base plates are 32 by 32. They are the crater plates. They are the landing pad crates, or the landing pad base plates, and they are the T intersection base plates. That's all I have for my layout. And so I based it, because I'm using Track Draw or Track Designer, I based it on 3 train modules by 2 train modules, so 6 train modules altogether. Or, in other words, it's 6 base plates by 9 base plates. That's what it is. So it's easy numbers, and it fits right into any other moon base idea. I could put it on top of tables again. It'll still fit 2.5 feet, so I need 2 tables that are now 5 feet, because again, 32 by 32 is exactly 2.5 feet. So if I don't want to use my boxes and my base that I built myself, and I'm going to a show and I just want to display it on top of tables, so it's a moon base to connect to other people's moon bases, I can put it on top of tables still, because it'll fit exactly on top of tables, and it fits exactly as the moon base modules. Chris and Mark and all those guys came up with 2 48 by 48 base plates with exactly 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet. Now I use 32 by 32s. They use 40 by 48s. I don't care. Doesn't matter. They still work out to be 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet. So I started talking about that with my friend at Torolug about how to transport, how to build your buildings. And I said, you'll get to the point where you are building the building itself, your mock or whatever, your creation, to fit into the box that you're going to bring to a show. That's what you're going to be doing. That's what everybody's ever. Now you can build a building bigger than the box, but as long as the building breaks down to fit into the box, that's what you're going to be doing, because people are not carrying in a 2-foot building on top of a piece of plywood overall. I've seen it happen. I've seen people do it, and all the power to them. But overall, if you got a whole collab going and you have a whole layout going, you can't just bring every single building in like that. It just gets, and then where do you store them and blah, blah. So I based my entire layout on the 32 by 32 base plate and the PNLTC modules of 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet, except I found that I did not want to carry a box, a wooden box that's 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet long. I didn't want to. It was too big for me to carry, too big for me to store, too big for me to put in the van. So what I did is I put 2 different sizes of wooden boxes. Again, one is 2.5 feet long because that's 3 base plates, right? But only 2 base plates deep, so it's 2.5 feet by it's 30 inches by 20 inches, the box itself. And those 6 base plates, 3 by 2, three more, are taped to a piece of plywood. Well, melamine for me, because melamine's perfectly flat. It's stupid heavy, but that's a whole other story. I gotta fix. And so the box itself is 2.5 feet, but it's only 20 inches deep, which is perfect because it fits into the garage nicely, it fits into the van nicely. It doesn't take up half the van because the van is 4 feet across, just over 4 feet across, because I can fit 4 by 8 sheets of plywood in there. And so these boxes are 20 inches a piece. 20 on the outside is 21 inches a piece because I used half-inch plywood to make them. And then there's a little spot down the middle where I can put all the 2x4s and stuff like that. Perfect. So I got 4 boxes that are 2.5 or 3 inches by 20 inches, and I got 4 boxes that are 20 inches by 20 inches, and those are for the buildings, because the building's sitting on top of 2 base plates, or 2 by 2 base plates. All my buildings sit on top of that, and you can break them down, and so those fit perfectly. So the buildings come apart, the tower comes apart, the launch pad doesn't really come apart, the habitat just slides in, but they're all broken down into 2 base plates by 2 base plates sections, and they fit into those boxes. So now I have wooden boxes for storage and transportation, and I reuse the boxes as the base of the layout, so I don't have to bring my own table. I don't have to worry about their tables being not flat and stuff. And so my layout now, it wasn't before, but my layout now is built to those boxes. 100%. I build all my, whatever I change has to fit into those boxes. So I'm okay. I am not going off script for that. And so he was telling me that when he first started, an older fan, and he started building, and he said he built this mock and this big, but then it wouldn't fit into a shoebox, so he rebuilt it to fit in the shoebox. But then he found another Rubbermaid box, and he said, "Oh, I can build it to fit that." And I said, "I understood, because we all went through it. He's going through it in 1 year. It took the rest of us decades to go through all those different iterations of boxes." And I said, you absolutely will have to go through this, and you have to find out what you're comfortable with. I was very comfortable building my own wooden boxes. Nobody else has to be. If you want the banker's boxes, then use the banker's boxes. My friend Derek did his entire layout, most of the entire layout, in banker's boxes. And he had a huge mountain display on one of the train layouts that we used to do for Art Tail Toronto, and he had, like, I don't know how many, 20 banker's boxes in the back of his Honda, and so it all fit in there, and they're all labeled. This is for that. And then he built this building and the landscaping so you could take it apart and fit it into a box, a banker's box. And I think banker's boxes are 8.5 by 12, or I don't know what they are, but perfectly fine. I did it, and a lot of people do it. And so if that's what's going to work for you, that's what's going to work for you. Banker's boxes, the plus side of banker's boxes is that you can't build it too big to lift up. Banker's boxes is a finite, small-ish box, so you can't build density and weight into that box unless you use like all big huge weight bricks. But you can, no matter what you do, you can lift up that one box and put it in your car and take it out of your car and put it on a dolly and bring it to the show. For me, the issue with banker's boxes is that I would need 20 of them, whereas I only have 8 wooden boxes, because the wooden boxes are bigger. Right now they're heavier to carry, and I'm getting to the point now where every time I do a show, hey Josh, come and help Daddy load the car and help Daddy unload the car. Now I can still carry every one of those boxes by myself, but it is a pain. And if I have a very strong 16-year-old that can help Daddy, 8-year-old dad, that's what I'm gonna do. So I might get to the point where that is just too heavy for me to set up and take down or move. Right now I can still do it. I'm only 58 so I can still move those boxes around by myself, and usually I am doing it by myself, and I don't mind doing it by myself. But right now, to date, it's just me, and as I say, if Josh is there, he can help me. What I was trying to convey to my friend at the Toro Lug is that each person has to decide what they want to do. There's no right way of doing this. There are, for me, wrong ways of doing this, but there are no right ways. There's multiple right ways of doing this. There's no one right way. I like my boxes. And I could just go to the brick shops. I don't need tables, I don't need anything. I'm gonna set it up and leave it there for 3 months and not even worry about it. It's all there. I like how it stores in the garage. I like how it fits into the van and still has room for all the luggage that we have to bring to Brickomania and stuff like that. I love that about my layout. Now, before, when I was using banker's boxes and breaking everything down to its component parts, I will say it used up less space in the van, because the wooden boxes take up room, obviously. There's lots of air in the wooden boxes, obviously. And you got the 2x4s and the railing and all that other stuff, obviously, that take up room that I did not need before. When we did Brick Fete back in the day, the layout broke down smaller. There was less air in the boxes. But again, longer to set up because things are more apart. To fit a building that's in 2 base plates by 2 base plates into a banker's box, you have to have 4 banker's boxes, because you cannot fit 2 base plates side by side into a banker's box. It's not big enough for that. You can do that in an HP box, but I found the HP boxes in that specific instance with my layout, because the layouts are usually more than 4 or 5 stories tall, the building's the layout, that then I have to break it up halfway through, and then that causes problems. Or again, we're just carrying in that building with outside a box. Jeff's Habitat had many disasters because I had to bring it to a show, and there was not a box out there that could fit it. So that was painful sometimes when the Habitat, or even the Tower, or even the Diamond got busted on the way in or out of a show. Right now, I haven't had major disasters at all. Now, there's been some minor breakage inside a box when I'm just too tired or whatever to be careful to throw it in the van or take it out of the van. There has been some missed or broken areas of especially the Habitat, and that's honestly just because I put the Habitat in and I put one of the landing pads on top and it slides around, and I keep on meaning to fix that, and I just haven't got around to it. But in the end, you do what works for you. That is literally the bottom line. For me, this is what works for me, and it doesn't have to work for literally anybody else. I like my boxes. I think they look great. I think they're a value-added service to the show, but nobody else has to do that. I've not met anybody, but I've known of some fellow fans of this hobby of ours that have built boxes like I did. They don't look like mine, but they're wooden boxes. The USS Missouri which again is one of my favoriteest builds ever in the history of mankind. The USS Missouri is in boxes, but he ships that thing all over the place. They're shipping boxes. They are absolutely shipping boxes that have the, ability. Like my boxes are homemade in my garage, and if you drop them, they're gonna smash to pieces. These are actually oh come on, it was just in my head. We were very good friends on Bricklink way back in the day. Jonathan? No, it's not Jonathan. It makes those buildings in New York. He does shows all over, and they go into big, huge shipping boxes where the forklifts have to take them to the next show. Oh man, it was just. This is a problem with getting old. Lopez, I think, yeah. Really, we used to talk a lot back in the day on the Bricklinks. I mean, and the lug nets. Jonathan Lopez. Quite sure. Haven't talked to him in decades. Back in the day, we were talking all the time. And the other big, like the DS9, I have no idea. I remember seeing the DS9 display not at our shows, but on the U.S. shows, and how big that thing was. And I'm going, how do you even transport that? I'm sure it comes apart. Serenity came to one of our shows. That was fantastic. That was absolutely fantastic. But then it came in boxes. And then you have to put it together because it was a really big Serenity. The one I saw today, and I would love to know how that gets transported, and I'd love to see it sometime, is the agate. I'm trying to not quote the video because it's like it breaks beyond the brick. The Agamemnon from Babylon 5, which is, oh my goodness gracious. Like, so, quick tangent about that. Jason A, who we all know, fantastic guy, used to come to our shows, and he still does. He was at Bricks Music last year, but he's made a whole bunch of Lego ideas. And anyway, back in the day when we were doing the hobby show, he showed up with the Discovery from 2001: Space Odyssey, and it was, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 feet long. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. It's exactly, almost perfectly matched the actual Discovery in 2001: Space Odyssey. And the very next show that we did, he shows up with the Discovery and the Leonov, a working Leonov where the center part spins, the centripetal force for the people in the universe to have gravity. That was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And then when Babylon 5 came out, Babylon was already out, the Leonov looked like the Earth cruisers, the Earth Alliance cruisers. And I'm going, but there is subtle differences, but it really did look like the Earth cruisers. And so I was reading through the thread of Beyond the Brick, and they're talking about, oh, this looks just like the Leonov in 2010. And I'm going, there's a distinct difference between the Earth Alliance cruisers, heavy cruisers in Babylon 5 and the Leonov from 2010: A Space Odyssey 2. There's a distinct difference. They both have a center rotating part that looks all greebled and stuff, pretty much same angles, but there's differences between the two. Now, I don't think anybody ripped off, this is a tangent by the way, I don't think anybody ripped off somebody else. I don't know, whatever. I do know that the movie 2010: A Space Odyssey came out far before Babylon 5 did, but I'm not sure if there was a tacit understanding that they could do the same thing, but the Agamemnon on the Beyond the Brick today was just awe-inspiring as a build, as a mock, and it just reinforced my absolute adoration of Babylon 5. So anyway, that was just a quick tangent at the end, 23 minutes. So bringing your stuff to a show, especially when you're doing a layout, a bigger layout than just one dropping it off and you're walking it back, which is fine too, by the way, to bring a full-size layout, no matter how big the layout is, whether it's 4 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, doesn't matter. You have to do what's comfortable for you, 100%. And try, because I did the Baker's boxes and that worked well. I did the HP computer boxes and that worked well, and the wooden boxes, and that works fantastically well for me. Doesn't have to work for you, but I tried them all. But I would also say, I would also caution right now, because I've done this myself. I will start building something, and I get halfway through a build, and then I realize that, oh, something else inspires me, so I take it apart because that inspired me, and so I start rebuilding it that way, and I get 3/4 way through, and oh, something else over there inspired me, and all of a sudden I dump that and I go do that. And this is, as I said, my friend's gone through 3 or 4 iterations of his build because he keeps on changing the box he's putting it into. I get it. I really do get it. The issue is you're rebuilding the same thing 3 or 4 times now, depending on what boxes you're using. So pick a box, try it for a while, because you haven't done a show yet. Do a show first. Figure out, like, you went from small, medium, big to larger, and all of a sudden you're gonna do your first show and you're gonna realize that's too big, or whatever's gonna happen. So when you get an idea for how you're gonna transport it, go with that idea first. Try it, unless you absolutely for certainty know it's not gonna work, then take it apart and do something else for a new box. But I do find the over enthusiasm, the over exuberance of keep on trying something before you even do your first show displaying something, I think is a mistake. I think build something to the box that you're using, and then bring it and they say, oh yeah, this, that, and the other thing, and because then you have grounding experience with it, and then you can try something else that you say, oh, maybe this is going to be better. The wooden boxes for me was after 20 years, at least 20 years of me doing shows. That's what the wooden boxes showed up. I remember so many times I'm going to a show. I did one out St. Jacobs with Janie, and a few other things out there. And this is when the landing pads were integrated into the diamond, so you couldn't take it apart. So in the van, it was 2.5, 3 feet across. Like all 4 landing pads were on it. And so I put all the other boxes in for the rest of the layout, banker's boxes and computer boxes, put them in. And then I had to find a spot to put the diamond and the landing pads, which was really awkward and stuff. And then I would drive out to a show. And what had happened was, and I did this 3 or 4 times, and every single time the diamond would break, because all of a sudden you take a corner and the thing, leans over, and all of a sudden the bottom corner breaks off, whatever you're leaning onto, and I had to dig out parts and all the mechanisms of the fold-down chairs in the van. Like, it was like, oh my goodness, this is such annoying. But I did it a few times to find out what was annoying about it, and then I said, not only do I want to move the landing pads out from the diamond so they're not attached into the diamond for aesthetic reasons, but for that reason especially. I could not stand the fact that every single show I did with that diamond the way it was back in the day kept on breaking just because of transportation. Like, every single show. Sometimes small, sometimes very large breakage, and then I'm carrying boxes, pieces, cup of water. Parts and pieces into the show, and then I have to spend an hour just fixing the diamond. It was so annoying, and I said, that's got to stop. How am I going to fix this? Oh yeah, I do it with landing pads. If I move the landing pads out, I can make them removable. Yay! So not only does it look better, it stores better now. But that came with experience of trying to get that thing to a show. When it was here, I didn't even realize it. I realized it didn't look perfect to me, and I didn't know what the issue was. So, because the diamond with the integrated landing pads, well, it's okay. Look kind of stunted, and I'm going, I should do something with that. But the impetus was the fact that I kept on breaking 3 or 4 shows. One of the things about Jeff's Habitat, it was a beautiful building, a fantastic building. It looked a lot better than what I have. It kept on breaking. It kept on breaking. And I said, and then there's a show or two where we're both at, and I had to have him stop whatever he's doing so he could fix the Habitat, because it took me 4 hours to set up the layout at the time. And I said, I don't have time to fix this, Jeff, can you fix it? And so he would have to stop whatever he was doing and come over and fix the Habitat. And I'm going, oh, this is no. Beautiful building, doesn't matter. It doesn't transport well. And so I get to the point where the one thing that for us is Jeff's monorail station fit perfectly into the Rubbermaid container that he was using with the fold down lids. It fit perfect. It was exactly 2 base plates wide, about a base plate and a half deep, so you could put stuff in front of it. But his monorail station was only 2 base plates by 1 base plate, so it fit perfectly in that. That thing never broke. That was great. and that's what inspired. So again, Jeff's box there that he had, it was just a Rubbermaid with the folding lids. I don't know if it was Rubbermaid, but it had the folding lids, but it was exactly 20 inches inside. I think it's 20 by 15. That box there, just thinking about it now, that box there inspired me to make boxes that fit exactly base plates, because it wouldn't move around. And if it's not moving around, it's not breaking unless you tip it on its side. Like if you just lift up a box, and I lift up my boxes all the time for shows, I lift up the box, but they can't move inside because it's exactly 2 base plates, and my buildings are exactly 2 base plates. So it's slide trainer with no movement. I could have put foam around it. I could have done that, but I don't have to. Unless you tilting it on its side, in which case the whole thing's gonna break. But until that happens, until I can, if I drop one, it's gonna smash. But Jeff's box for his monorail station is what was part of the inspiration for those blue boxes I have in the garage right now. So find out what works, and always, literally, I've said this to everybody, ask questions for people who have already done shows. Who have already done this, who've already been here. Again, we RTL Toronto borrowed, yoinked, stole, plagiarized, whatever you want to call it, the standard that the Pacific Northwest Train Club came up with, the 3x3 base plates, tables, and we built dozens of those tables ourselves because we did a lot of layouts back then, train layouts, and it was a lot of fun. And then I used that modified for mine. So look around, see what other people are doing, not me because I'm just a hack, but look what other people are doing, figure out how they're getting their big layouts to a show. I will also say on that specific note, because it does take a long time, I did get it down to 2 hours doing the layout, setting up the layout without lighting, under 2 hours. That I will not, because of the layout the way it is, I will not do 1-day shows anymore with it. Because I did when I first finished the boxes, my very first show at the Mississauga Collector Con, and it was a 1-day show, or was it a 2-day show? No, it's a 1-day show. Sit up in the morning, do the show, take it out at night. And the setting up and taking down was longer, basically, than the actual show. And I said, no, that's not right. I don't want to do that anymore. So I don't mind doing 1-day shows when I have something that I can just drop onto the table, like my moving art. That's fantastic. I was looking forward to Tilsonburg, and I'm looking forward to Tilsonburg every year because I get to drop that thing on the table and just enjoy the environment, and not run around for 2 hours trying to get this thing done before people start showing up and then taking it on after everybody's gone. So that's another thing you can do for big shows, weekend shows, or 4-day shows like at one of our convention. Have something that you can display, like a big, huge display. But at a day show, have something small, something extremely small, and like briquettes or whatever, and that's perfectly acceptable as well. I do find that as I keep on iterating, my favorite thing to do right now with the Lego hobby is shows. It's absolutely shows. It is wonderful to go to shows. We are at the June meeting. I didn't realize, because I'd never been to a June meeting before for Toralug, that that you can bring stuff. They brought stuff, and there's a little bit of competition, and they have a little bit of a GVC. I think I'm going to get back into GVC a little tiny bit, not a lot. When I have time, maybe next winter, I'm going to build a few GVC modules because Jeff likes to do GVCs. The smallest to the biggest, all of it is fantastic to show. I'm gonna wrap this up with the final note after 35 minutes. No mock is too big and no mock is too small for a show. I have seen little tiny mocks made out of 10 pieces that inspired me, absolutely inspired me. Little mocks that go on an 8x8 base plate that are just absolutely gorgeous. I have seen not directly, but I saw the Harry Potter castle that's 13 feet by 13 feet, and that's absolutely astounding. The Simon's new Hiroshima, whatever, not Hiroshima, something different. But absolutely, what they had at Bricks in the Six a couple years back, fantastic. But the big one, that Brick World, where it was just like would cross a city block, just wonderfully awe-inspiring. But that's as awe-inspiring as it is, as the big thing that it is, as the little tiny mock sitting on a table by itself that I saw across, walked down the hallway, and I said, oh my goodness, that's fantastic. So don't think you have to do something big and fantastically millions of pieces to be awe-inspiring. You can make something as small. One of my favorite mocks ever, and I don't know who built it. It was Brick Fete 2 or 3 years ago, where it was just, I think it was like maybe a 20 by 20, maybe a 30 by 30 stud diorama of the Eagle from Space 1999. And it was from a distance, I recognized it immediately, and I went and zoomed in, and the small little details, it was no snot, no studs were exposed. It wasn't snot, but I'm going, this is on its own, little tiny pieces, like maybe 150 pieces, maybe 200 pieces, just wonderfully awesome. I get it. I got that. I don't know how many people at the show got that, because of like my generation watched Space 1999. But the Eagle is one of those quintessential spaceships in our lives. Like, you got the Millennium Falcon. That's not even close to the workhorse that the Eagle had, 5 years or 2 years before Star Wars came out. So build something, small, big. But if you're going to build it big, do what you want to do, but do it and try it before you give up on it and try something new. I did want to convey that to my friend, that just keep on jumping this to this to this to this without actually doing a show first. Build it, bring it to a show, see what you like, see what you didn't like, see what the show does for you, and then because again, for me, in my head, I got a million things on my list to fix about the layout, but because it's at a show, I can see how people interact with it. I can see how it took to set up. I can see how it took to take down. I can see how it handles the public day and all that stuff, and obviously what I want to improve and what I want to add and what I want to take out and blah blah. You look at the evolution of the layout. There was rarely a time where I built something and then took it apart to rebuild it before the next show. I built something, brought it to the show, liked it or hated it, whatever, but I brought it to the show first. And then I made my judgment at the show to see how it worked with people and whatever. I think putting it in the show, don't be shy, don't be, oh, it's not worthy, don't be anything like that. Just bring it. And then drag me by the ear over to see it. And if you want to talk about it to see what works, I'm a great listening ear most days. And I will give you my crappy advice. But just discuss it with people. And then, especially if you're a first timer, and then go home and after a show and say, ooh, I like this, I didn't like that at the show. Because if you're building for a show, then build for the show. If you want to build for your house or for yourself in your living room, you can take it apart as many times as you want. But if you're building something for a show, for a display, for whatever, and you get halfway through and then you say, oh, I'm going to change boxes or storage or stripping, and I'm going to do it this way, and you haven't even done that one yet at a show, maybe this one's better. You don't know until you do a show. Anyway, that's it. That's all. I want to see stuff at shows. That's why I love shows. I want to see people be enthusiastic about what they're bringing to shows. I adore that part. I walk up and down the aisles at every show I do, and I look at the stuff. And if the person's standing there, I will talk to them about how wonderful and how passionate. And oh, I built it this way, and I spent 3 o'clock in the morning and blah 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 weeks over there, and whatever it is, I'm there for it. So I look forward to seeing people and their stuff at shows. That's it. That's all. You everybody out there, stay safe. And I will talk to you soon.